Well, hey, folks, welcome to the program. This is just the pre-show where we're getting set up. So, okay. Oh, I got some feedback. Hang on. It's coming. That's my feedback back there. I got to shut that off. Boom. There we go. How's everybody tonight? Had to adjust the lights. Hope you're all doing well. I'm adding a file here, and hopefully we can play that tonight. We'll see if it loads for us. And how's everybody doing? Yeah, looks like it's going to load. All right. It's listed as music, but it's not music. This is kind of cool. It's Dan Madsen just sent this to me, and it is the original recordings of William Shatner recording the Space, the Final Frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. And so Dan just sent that to me. We were talking about that on the phone today. And it's very cool. He did it, and they did 3 takes, and they used one of those for the show. And I might just play those during the show tonight because I think it's kind of fun. We got 1 minute left before we go live on the radio station. And as you all know, we go live 3 minutes after the top of the hour. And we take it from there. I'm going to get something to drink. Sit tight. I'll be right back. Just going to walk over to the fridge in the other room. You know, probably not the best thing to drink in the evenings because it's loaded with caffeine, but I got a sugar-free, sugar is 0 sugar dew. There you go. 0 sugar because I can't do the sugar, but I'll do the caffeine. Okay, we're going to go dark. We'll be right back. Sit tight.
The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey folks, welcome to the program. I'm Scotty Roberts, your host of this here program, the Intrepid radio program, right here on the Odyssey Radio Network. That's ODYSY radio.com. If you want to hear this show in its audio format only, and come on over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/my name, Scotty Roberts. And there you can join our live chat room, already infested or inhabited by fellow Intrepids. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Leslie, I just saw a notice come up. You have been a member of this this particular YouTube channel for 34 months. That's pretty cool. So that's almost 3 years. That must have been, is today like an anniversary of that or something that it popped up? That's pretty cool. And so thank you for being here, Leslie, and everything you've done for this show. And frankly, for me and my family, too. I appreciate that. And, you help out this show. You help out everything we do here. So if I may say to everybody, if you want to be, oh, it popped up. So, yeah, it must be an anniversary. If you want to be a member of this show, of this program, you can join in a couple of different ways. Just at YouTube, look right below the window and you'll see a join button. You click on that button. It gives you 3 ways to be a member. And you can also go over to my Patreon site where you can join up there and be a member. So thank you, everybody that's already a member. The more we grow and bring people into the fold, and the more we can do. And that's what will be fun when we get to that level. So I want to do this right now. I want to crack this can. So I'll do it as quietly as possible. That wasn't quiet at all. There it is. So, just something to keep my throat wet. So when I talk too much or too long, I dry out and I get croaky. So tonight I want to talk about science and religion, as the marquee says. Let me get rid of that, by the way, and I'm going to pull that out. Let's remove that, and we will bring up our banner and our brand, which is this. Boom. And there we are. That's us. That's who we are. And adjust my camera. Everything's tilted off a little bit. And so, welcome. Here we go. Science and religion. I know it's not a new topic, it's things we've talked about before. It's things in almost every show, no matter what the angle is, or the topic is, or the subject matter that we're talking about, we tend to mention something about that difference between science and religion, or the difference between faith and belief, or maybe faith, belief, and knowing things. And that seems to be a common thread that's woven through a lot of my programs with this show over the last 20 years. And in this format, since boy, Leslie kind of is the mile marker there. I think we put up this particular YouTube page about 3 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, when we started with Odyssey Radio. And I think Odyssey was 4 years ago, 2019, but I'm not positive of that. August of 2019, it might have been August of 2020, for all I remember. So we've been talking about these things all the time, mostly because it's a thing I still deal with, a thing that, thank you, Leslie. Leslie just put in $34. Thank you, Leslie. I sure appreciate it. $1 a month. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And love you, Leslie, and everything you do for us. And so what was I going to say? Going back to the beginning of this is the common theme because I question these things. I want to know answers to things. I don't want to be told what to believe. I want to know what to believe. And I'm seeking answers. And tonight's going to be a little different, only in the respect that I'm going to rely heavily on the writing of somebody else, one Richard Fyneman. And I've talked about Richard Fyneman before, and I've quoted him in my own books. I'll pull up a little bio on him and we'll read it. But he had this to say about science and religion. And I thought you would enjoy hearing this, kind of straight from the horse's mouth in a way. And let's see, let's go here and we'll go back here and I'll pull this up. This is what he said. He's talking about, when it comes to science and religion, this doubt and uncertainty that we all have. And doubt and uncertainty are things we all have to one degree or another. Even if you are a solid, staunch believer in something of a religious nature or a spiritual nature, things that you are convinced of in your heart of hearts and in your mind, we still have our doubts, don't we? We still, because it's still all that unseen thing. Our psychology, our psyches take over a bit when we are so entrenched in something we believe, and we believe it genuinely with our heart, our spirituality, our religion. You know what takes over? The psychology of our brain. And that is what makes us believe and feel even stronger and feel like we are rooted in something. And so, and by the way, I hope everybody's making it here tonight. I'm hearing lots of dings on my phone, which are announcements from people writing me. I hope everybody's making their way here because I posted it just a little too late and I couldn't edit the location very well over on the Facebook, especially. So if you're having trouble getting here, just come on over to the channel. And well, if you're not here, you can't hear that. So, if you're having any trouble, just come to the YouTube channel. Tell anybody if they ask you. Let's let's see. I'm hearing a lot of dings as well. That's coming off my phone. So, language is the operating system of the mind, says Professor Bauer. Indeed, it is. And so, I think the things that we believe are the things that we put life to, we put feet to them, we put our actions to them. And the more we do that, it's like building a neural net for what we believe. What we believe then becomes even more solid to us, and we stop doubting quite as much as we used to. And what I like about what Richard Feynman said, now I've quoted this from him before, and um, in bits and pieces. Here's what he wrote. He said, if you expected, and actually he didn't write this, this was an interview. It was an audible interview a few years before he passed away in 1988. And so this was transposed from an interview. And he said, if you expected science to give all the answers to the wonderful questions about what we are, where we're going, and what the meaning of the universe is, and so on, then I think you could become easily disillusioned and then look for some mystic answer to these problems. How a scientist can take a mystic answer, I don't know, because the whole spirit is to understand. Well, never mind that, he says. Anyhow, I don't understand that. But anyhow, if you think of it the way I think, you can tell this was transposed from speaking. He says, anyhow, I don't understand that. But anyhow, if you think of it the way I think of what we're doing, is we're exploring. We're trying to find out as much as we can about the world. People say to me, are you looking for the ultimate laws of physics? No, I'm not. I'm just looking to find out more about the world. And if it turns out there's a simple ultimate law which explains everything, so be it. That would be really nice to discover. And I add, wouldn't it? If it turns out it's like an onion with millions of layers and we're just sick and tired of looking at the layers, then that's the way it is. But whatever way it comes out, its nature is there, and she's going to come out the way she is. And therefore, when we go to investigate, we shouldn't pre-decide what it is we're trying to do, except to try to find out more about it. If you say your problem is, why do you find out more about it? If you thought you were trying to find out more about it because, you see, this was transposed from verbal, so bear with it. I'm trying to interpret it as best I can vocally. He says, if you say your problem is, why do you find out more about it? If you thought you were trying to find out more about it because you're going to get an answer to some deep philosophical question, you might be wrong. It may be that you can't get an answer to that particular question by finding out more about the character of nature. But I don't look at it like that. My interest in science is to simply find out about the world. And the more I find out, the better it is, like to find out. There are very remarkable mysteries about the fact that we're able to do so many more things than apparently animals can do, and other questions like that. But those are mysteries I want to investigate without knowing the answer to them. And so altogether, I can't believe these special stories that have been made up about our relationship to the universe at large, because they seem to be too simple, too connected, too local, too provincial. The earth. He came to the earth. I remember hearing a recording of him quoting this. And he's got that old Jewish, New York accent. And he says, the earth. He came to the earth. He says, one of the aspects of God came to the earth, mind you, and look what's out there. It isn't in proportion. Anyway, it's no use arguing. I can't argue it. I'm just trying to tell you why the scientific views that I have do have some effect on my belief. And also another thing has to do with the question of how you find out if something's true. And if if all the different religions have all the different theories about the thing, then you begin to wonder. So once you start doubting, just like you're supposed to doubt, you ask me if science is true. You say, no, we don't know what's true. We're trying to find out, and everything is possibly wrong. But start out understanding religion by saying everything is possibly wrong. Don't we talk about that on the show a lot? Professor Bauer will recognize that we talk about these things all the time in the captain's cabin. Maybe everything I think I know isn't so. And once you have to begin to wonder, he says, that everything is possibly wrong. Start out understanding religion by saying everything is possibly wrong. Let us see. As soon as you do that, you start sliding down an edge which is hard to recover from, and so on. With the scientific view, or my father's view, that we should look to see what's true and what may or may not be true, once you start doubting, which I think to me is a very fundamental part of my soul, to doubt and to ask, and when you doubt and ask, it gets a little harder to believe. You see, one thing is I can live with doubt and uncertainty and not knowing. I can live with those things. I think it's much more interesting to live not knowing than to have the answers, which might be wrong. I have approximate answers and possible beliefs and different degrees of certainty about different things, but I'm not absolutely sure of anything. And there are many things I don't know anything about, such as whether it means anything to ask why we're here and what the question might mean. I might think about it a little bit, and if I can't figure it out, then I go on to something else. But I don't have to know an answer. I don't feel frightened by not knowing things, by being lost in a mysterious universe without having any purpose, which is the way it really is, so far as I can tell. It doesn't frighten me. That's what Richard Fyneman said. And I really enjoy his perspective on things. And I want to move into this idea of the relation of science and religion and how that applies to all of that. Do I really have to know everything? Let me ask you, as my listeners, do you have to know what you believe? Feynman said, I seek to know things, and if I can't find the answer, I just move on to something else. And I'm not afraid of not knowing the answers. What has religion taught us? It's taught us that we have to know things a certain way, at least certain types of religion have taught us we have to know things a certain way, act a certain way, follow the prescriptions of a certain way in order to gain life after death, eternal life, or eternal damnation, whichever it may be. Which all seems so in non-accordance to me, by the way I see it, with the way a God would think as opposed to the way a man would think or a human being. So, in kind of a thought experiment, Feynman takes the various points of view of an imaginary panel to represent the thinking of scientists and spiritualists. And he discusses the points of agreement and of disagreement between science and religion. He anticipating by 2 decades the current active debate between those two fundamentally different ways of searching for truth. 4 decades now, I think, since the book came out that I'm taking this material from. And among other questions, He wonders whether atheists have morals based on what science tells them, and in the way that spiritualists can have morals based on their belief in God. An unusually philosophical topic for pragmatic Feynman. And so I'm going to pull some things from things that he said, and we'll talk about them. My young daughter is here in violation of just coming to do nothing other than to make faces in the camera, so I sent her away. And what? I'm sorry to hear that. You'll have to show me when we're done here. You can come in during the captain's cabin if you're still awake. I'm sure. Takes a sharp thing to cut you. Or you can be cut with a dull thing. A spoon. It'll hurt more. Where'd that come from? So let's go on with what Fyneman had to say here. Because I think this is really good. This is really good for thinking your way through some of these things. Elderberry, you're right. Science can't prove there is no God. Neither can science prove there is a God. Religion doesn't prove there's a God. Religion accepts that there's a God, has a belief system built around accepting that God is real. Rapid Dog says science is now a religion. If you don't believe the science presented, you're excommunicated. Yeah, I have said many times, I wrote in my own book that years ago, that science is a surrogate for religion. Because science sets itself up, if science or anything sets itself up as the replacement for religion or the better thing than religion, it's really establishing itself to be a religion. I'm better than religion, therefore it makes itself a religion. Don't believe in science, accept what I tell you, accept what science tells you. But our science is also limited. Our science, we only understand science so far as we've been able to take it. Are there sciences we don't understand? I'm sure there are. Were there sciences we did not understand 10,000 years ago? Yeah. Does that mean it didn't exist, the things that we can quantify and qualify by the scientific method today? No, it doesn't mean that. It still existed. Oxygen still existed 10,000 years ago, but who could break that down in scientific terminology and experimentation? They could hold their breath, I suppose, and they go, I got to have oxygen to live. Is that scientific methodology? Maybe to a degree. So Randall Flagg says they're trying to reimagine science. Leslie Holker over in the chat room says, I find it far more important being a spiritual being, knowing there's a higher power, God or otherwise. There needs to be something amazing after death because life is hell. And I understand that, Leslie, and I get that. But realize, and I'm not picking on you, I'm looking at your word. I'm parsing some of your words. Here you say that there is a higher power, God or otherwise. There needs to be something amazing after death because life is hell. That's us ascribing importance to a belief. But that doesn't make the belief so. And again, that's why I say I'm not picking on you for that thought. Just that this is the way we think sometimes. Oh, there's got to be something better than this. No, there doesn't. Maybe this is it. The old Jack Nicholson movie. Maybe this is all there is. He says, this is it. What was the title of the movie? It's the same as the title of the movie. This is all there is. Nah, that's not what it was. It'll come to me. So, yeah, maybe this is all we have. Maybe there's something big and blown out that we can't even imagine right now. Leslie says, I'd hate to hell to think after everything I've been through in life that everything goes dark in the end. I'd hate to believe that too, Leslie. I'd hate to believe that. But that's a belief system. I'd hate to believe that there's nothing after this kind of life I've had, after the woes of life. But what if there isn't? I don't think us wanting there to be something better makes it so. That's all I'm saying, is because we can't prove it, is all I'm saying. As good as it gets. That's it, Randall Flagg. Is this as good as it gets? This is it? What we got now? In this age of specialization, men who thoroughly know one field are often incompetent to discuss another. And the great problems of the relations between one and another aspect of human activity have, for this reason, been discussed less and less in public. So when we look at the past great debates on all these kinds of topics, we feel jealous of those times. For we should have liked the excitement of such argument. The old problems, such as the relation of science and religion, those are still with us. We haven't put that to bed. And I believe present as difficult dilemmas as ever. But they're not often publicly discussed because of the limitations of specialization. Oh, I'm specialized in science. I can't talk about religion too. There's some obvious breakdowns in the walls between those things, but that's for the most part. But I've been interested in this problem for a long time and would like to discuss it. And in my view, in view of my very evident lack of knowledge and understanding of how everything is supposed to work, even though I try to get as much information gathered in as possible, and as Fyneman put it, his lack of understanding of how religion works, he said, I'm going to organize the discussion in this way. He said, I'm going to suppose that not one man, but a group of men are discussing these problems. That the group consists of specialists in many fields, the various sciences. I just got a message that said, be ready to start your radio show 27 minutes ago. I'm going to suppose that not one man, but a group of men are discussing the problem, that the group consists of specialists in many fields, the various sciences, the various religions, and so on, and that we're going to discuss the problem from various sides, like a panel. Each is to give his point of view, which may be molded and modified by the later discussion. Further, says Fyneman, I imagine that someone has been chosen by lot to be the first to present his views, and I am he so chosen. So I would start, he says, by presenting the panel with a problem. Now, here's the problem that he puts forward. A young man brought up in a religious family studies a science, and as a result, he comes to doubt and perhaps later to disbelieve in his father's God. Now, this is not an isolated example. It happens all the time. Although I have no statistics on this, Fyneman said, I believe that many scientists, in fact, I actually believe that more than half of the scientists in existence today really disbelieve in their father's God. That is, they don't believe in a God in a conventional sense. Now, what's interesting, I may have mentioned this before. Elderberry, you said, but thankfully there are good people that can tell us the truth from true accumulated data. Depends on what data you're talking about. Are you talking about verifiable, quantifiable, factual data? Or are we talking about spiritual belief systems that are entrenched? And I'm not saying that in a negative way either. They're sharing the truth as they understand it from their point of religious view, which you can't prove. And there's many things in science you can't prove either. There's a few things, but so that's always been my contention with religious belief and religious thought, is that I have nothing to go on other than what this little document right here tells me I have to go on. It doesn't give me facts. It doesn't tell me where God lives so I can go over there and visit him. I can do it in my head. I can do it via prayer. I never see him face to face. That's why the same belief system people have in ghosts and things like that. If they can't see him and experience it, they don't believe it. moving on from that. I have mentioned a man that I knew in Egypt. He's an archaeologist. He was John and Maria's boss, so to speak, John Ward and Maria Nilsson, on their archaeological site at Gebel El Silsila. And he lived in Komombo down the Nile from Gebel El Silsila, where their site was. And he would come to visit, and he became a pretty good friend. I remember I was actually out wandering with, I don't remember if it was with the Swedish photographer, but we went out all along the west bank of the Nile at Gebel El Silsila, going to all the shrines and taking pictures of the shrines and documenting them and all of this. While John and Maria were out at a dig site across over on the east bank of the river. And so we were wandering, and in the distance along the west bank, mid-afternoon, I see a couple of guys walking our way. You know, they were only the size of ants when we first saw them. And we're looking down the river or up the river, and they're walking this way along the bank. And when they get into view, I see it's this fellow. And he yells out, he puts up his arms like this. He goes, "Scotty, me boy," he yells. And he comes and he throws his arms around me, gives me a big hug. He walked all the way out there, 1.5 miles down from the boat to find us, just so he could say hello. And we took some pictures and stuff like that. Now, we were sitting one day on the boat, the Dahabea, which was our dig house during the archaeological season. And we're sitting at a table up on the deck. And he was asking me about my faith. "You say you have lost your faith," he said. He says, "How can you lose your faith?" And so we're talking, and he asked me that question. I said, "Now, let me ask you a question." I said, "You're Muslim." I said, "You have a very strict set of beliefs, and you live in a Muslim country." And he says, "Yes, this is all true." And he kind of reminds me, by the way, I come out with that voice because he reminds me of Salah from Indiana Jones. He had that persona. He was a big fellow like that. So I said, "What do you do as a scientist, an archaeologist, historian, when your faith tells you one thing and you're convinced of that and you believe that, but your science tells you something different? So what do you do with that?" And he did this thing. It was like this. If you look at the screen, he does this kind of eyes shut and the eyebrows go up, kind of shrugs and the hands go up. I saw a lot of that. That seemed to be like I want to say a cultural, physical trait or habit that men would do. And he said, "Well," he says, "I will tell you what I do." He says, "My science is here and my religion is here." And he says, "And I do not let them conflict. I keep them in different places." I said, "Isn't that difficult for you?" And he says, "No." He says, "It's just what I do." He says, "I'm Muslim and I believe in Islam. I believe in Allah and so on." And he says, "And I'm a scientist and I believe these things. And where they controvert each other," he says, "I just move on." So interesting. And that's what I think some of this is. Now, since the belief in a God is a central feature of religion, this problem has selected points up most strongly, or Fyneman said he selected certain points that most strongly represent the problem of the relation of science and religion. Why does the young man in the story we started to tell come to disbelieve? So the first answer we might hear is very simple. You see, he's taught by scientists. And as I have just pointed out, and they're all atheists at heart. So the evil is spread from one to another. But if you can entertain this view, I think you know less of science than I know of religion. Another And this is Fyneman saying this. Another answer might be that a little knowledge is dangerous. This young man has learned a little bit and thinks he knows it all. But soon he's going to grow out of this sophomoric sophistication and come to realize that the world is more complicated. And he'll begin again to understand that there must be a God. I don't think it's necessary that he comes out of it. There are many scientists, men and women who hope to call themselves mature who still don't believe in God. In fact, as I would like to explain later, says Fyneman, the answer is not that the young man thinks he knows it all. It's the exact opposite. He feels like he doesn't know anything. A third answer you might get from this panel, this fictional panel, is that this young man really doesn't understand science correctly. I don't believe that science can disprove the existence of God. I think that's impossible. Science cannot either prove nor disprove the existence of God. It's an impossibility. And if it's impossible, it's not a belief in science and in a God. An ordinary God of religion, a consistent possibility, unprovable, and unextinguishable. Yes, it's consistent, despite the fact that more than half of the scientists don't believe in God. Many scientists do believe in God. They do believe in both science and in God in a perfectly consistent way. Einstein believed in a God. But this consistency, although possible, is not easy to attain. And I'd like to try to discuss two things. Why is it not easy to attain that blending of the two, and whether it's worth attempting to attain it? So when I say believe in God, of course, it's always a puzzle. What's God? People will ask you. What I mean is the kind of a personal God that comes along with some of the denominations we're familiar with. A personal God, characteristics of the Western religions, to whom you pray and who has something to do with creating the universe and guiding you in morals. A personal God. For the student, when he learns about science, there are two sources of difficulty in trying to wield science and religion together. The first source of difficulty is this, that it's imperative in science to doubt things. That's an imperative. You have to come in doubting, not believing, doubting. Why? It's an absolutely necessary for progress in science to have uncertainty as a fundamental part of your inner nature. You don't come in knowing everything. You come in wanting to know things, wanting to learn things, but knowing nothing. The first source of the difficulty is it's imperative to doubt. You investigate for the sake of curiosity because it's an unknown is why you look into it. Not because you know the answer. And as you develop more information in the sciences, it's not that you're finding out the truth, but that you're finding out that this or that is more or less likely. When we had skeptical atheist P.Z. Myers, Dr. P.Z. Myers, and evolutionary biologist of the University of Minnesota in Moorhead, Minnesota. And he spoke at our Paradigm Symposium back in 2013. It's 10 years. That's 20 years ago. 13? Yeah, 20 years ago. No, 10 years ago. Jeez. That's why I'm not a scientist. 10 years ago. And he was somebody who really had decried me and people who think like me and some of the people who were in attendance. Scott Walter from America Unearthed spoke at that Paradigm Symposium. And he and P.Z. Myers had gone at it. on the internet many times with his audience and PZ Myers' audience. So PZ Myers came, and he did say in his when I introduced him, some people booed in the audience, and I looked at him. I said, "Don't do that, please." I said, "I'm not going to chide anybody, but don't do that." I said, because we're inviting him here to present his view, and we need to respect him the way we want to be respected. And I had no idea what would take place. And PZ Myers got up there and he spoke and he said, some of you have what I would call a wackadoo view of aliens. He says, and I got to tell you something. It's not that I don't want to disbelieve it. He says, is that I approach it not knowing. And he says, by not knowing, he says, I got to confess. He says, I would love for nothing more than to know that there are aliens that have visited our planet. He says, I'd be the first in the line to jump and scream and shout it. He said, but as of right now, I don't know that. So what's going on, Sean? Clicked allow ads and doesn't help. Think they're using as censoring. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. Is YouTube giving us problems tonight? I don't know. Ad blockers violate YouTube's terms of service. Wow. Yeah, that's because that's where they make their money. So, anyway, we go on with this. You investigate for curiosity. You have to find what is more or less likely or unlikely. And that is, if we investigate further, we find that the statements of science are not of what is true and what is not true, but statements of what is known to different degrees of certainty. And it's very much more likely, and so is true, is more true than that it is not true, or such and such is almost certain, but there's still a little bit of doubt, or at the other extreme, well, we really don't know. So every one of the concepts of science is on a scale graduated somewhere between, but at neither end of an absolute falsity or an absolute truth. So it's a necessary, I believe, it's necessary to accept this idea, not only for science, but also for other things. It's of great value to acknowledge ignorance. I acknowledge my ignorance all the time. I just said the other night, the more shit I know, the more I know I don't know shit. I acknowledge my ignorance. It's a fact that when we make decisions in our life, we don't necessarily know that we're making them correctly. We only think that what we're doing is the best that we can. And that's what we should do. Do the best we can do. Get as close to the mark as we can. Now, of course, if you look at biblical religion, it says in the book of John, 1 John, I think it is, these things are written that you may know what you believe. They're written so you can know it. Of course, who was that written to? An audience 2,000 years ago. Has the human mind become more sophisticated? Not necessarily. I think the stimuli to the human mind has become more sophisticated by nature of what we know, what we've developed, and we're still flailing in the breeze with all we know. We still don't know the answers for a certainty of any of the big questions. So there has to be an attitude of uncertainty. I think that when we know that we actually do live in uncertainty, then we ought to admit it. It's of great value, to me especially, to realize that we don't know the answers to different questions. This attitude of mind, this attitude of uncertainty is vital to the scientist. And it's this attitude of mind which the student must first acquire. It becomes a habit of thought. We're talking about the student in the example he was giving. The student who starts learning things and eschews his father's religion. It becomes a habit of thought. So once acquired, one cannot retreat from it anymore. It's like even the Bible states that. It talks about, speaking from a religious point of view. Professor Bauer might recognize some of these verses and these concepts, but it was that idea. There's a Bible verse that says, once you have known, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't even know what passage it comes from, but it says, once you know these things, you are now without excuse for your belief system, because now you know that this exists. And knowing this, you have no excuse not to believe it. And I disagree with that. That's only from a religious point of view. That's that, what do we call it? Exotericism. It's what gets taught outwardly, and then the esotericism, the stuff you take internally. There's a big difference there. Rapid Dog says instinct and intuition are compromised in the modern human mind too. Too much bad data. Ain't that the truth? Too much bad data out there. Leslie says in the chat room, mankind loves to believe they're in full control of their lives until they're not. God is not required until they need someone to blame for the trauma in their lives. How hypocritical. I look at the war going on in Israel with Hamas. Who knew? It was suspected that it might happen. Who knew Hamas would break down and commit barbarous acts of murder against innocent civilians on October 7th? Who knew? And what did that do to this, like Leslie says, that belief of being fully in control? It went right out the window. Who knew that people in the United States would be so swayed by, I don't even know what to call it. I don't want to offend anybody out there who is Islamic and doesn't believe in the terror, but who knew that our country would have so many huge pockets of people standing up against Israel and the Jews? Who knew? The Dunning-Kruger effect. Yeah, thank God. We'll talk about that in the captain's cabin. What do we got? We got about 10 minutes left in the radio show. Let's get through some more of this. What happens then is this. That young man begins to doubt everything because he cannot have it as an absolute truth anymore. So the question changes a little bit from, is there a God, to how sure is it that there is a God? And this very subtle change is a great stroke and represents a parting of the ways between science and religion. I do not believe a real scientist can ever believe in the same way again. Although there are scientists who believe in God. I don't believe that they think of God in the same way as religious people do. I think that they say something like this to themselves. I'm almost certain there is a God. The doubt is very small. Now, that's quite a different thing from saying, I know that there is a God. So I don't believe that a scientist can ever obtain that view that says there is a God without question. That absolute certainty, which religious people have. Of course, this process of doubt doesn't always start by attacking the question of the existence of God. Usually, special tenets such as the question of an afterlife or details of the religious doctrine, such as the details of Christ's life and death and the history around it sometimes, come under scrutiny first. And it's more interesting, however, to go right into the central problem in a frank way and to discuss the more extreme view, which doubts the existence of God altogether. So once the question has been removed from the absolute and gets to sliding on the scale of uncertainty, it might end up in very different positions. And in many cases, it comes out very close to being certain. But on the other hand, for some, the net result of close scrutiny of the theory is fatherheld of God may be the claim that is almost certainly wrong. May be the claim that is almost certainly wrong. What was that, Leslie? Scotty, comma, semicolon, ET. I'm not sure what you mean there, Leslie. It utterly seconds me that anyone, especially in this country, would support the actions of Hamas. Same here. And of course, you pinpoint them on that. Oh, we're not supporting Hamas. We are supporting the poor Palestinians who are being oppressed by Israel, which is false altogether. If you know anything, and I'm going to say this to anybody out there who supports Palestine as being oppressed by Israel, I'm going to tell you point blank, you don't know shit about history, about the history of Israel, about the history of the current country of Israel, about what has gone on in the Middle East. You know shit jack squat. So stop yapping your mouth about it and go learn some history. Hey, Barbie D. I just write, and if it's seen, good. LOL, she says. Did you write something? I missed it? I'm not looking closely at the chat room. Yeah, you'd be surprised how many really do. Am I in the same context with you? Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of people out there that think that. Never would have thought that. 50 years ago in this country, you never would have thought. So belief in God and the facts of science, that's kind of the second difficulty that this student, hypothetical student, has in trying to weld science and religion. Why does it often end up that the belief in God, at least the God of the religious type, is considered to be very unreasonable, very unlikely? I think that the answer has to do with the scientific things, the facts or the partial facts that the man learns. And by the way, I will say this too. In order to have a belief and a strong belief that Israel should be defended, has its roots in religion, a religious belief of that. JP is right. Jason's right. It all leads back to a lack of digging any deeper and trying to understand anything. And you know, one thing I'm seeing with the people who are leading the protests, the pro-Palestinian protests in this country, they're acting in ways that they act in other countries, not the way we do things here in the United States. You don't smear blood on statues, fake blood paint. You don't do that kind of shit. That tells me it's a movement that is being driven from another source. Leslie says the one thing both terrorists and religion have in common is they think they have the almighty power. Isn't that the truth? Everybody thinks God is on their side. Everybody thinks it. I saw a video today compiled by a political thinking person, and he kept throwing in a clip from Braveheart. And it was a video on politics. It was on looking at the White House press secretary, Karim Jean-Pierre, not answering questions, evading questions. I mean, just watch her take time and go look at some of the things she says. She's making shit up. They're lying to us, folks. I talked about it the other day. They're not just lying. They're gaslighting us, attempting to. It's like you want to look at them. And some of those reporters that ask her questions, I go, they just want to, you can tell they're just looking at her going, are you really full of shit that you believe that? We're not stupid people sitting out here in this press pool. But this guy in this video, he kept interjecting that little clip from Braveheart of the Irish dude. Remember him, the Irish guy? Father says, stop changing the subject and answer the fucking question. That's the way it is. Yeah, she's a clown, Randall Flagg. I agree. When belief systems have a personality at the head, the followers are encouraged to take on that personality. That is the truth. Oh, look at this. We're about a minute away from being done on the radio station. So I'm not going to go any deeper with this, but I'm going to keep it next time when we talk about this. We're going to bring this up again, and we will talk about this some more because I haven't even hit the tip of the iceberg with this. But as Fyneman said, he says, I don't have a problem with not knowing things for a certain. I'm fully comfortable with that. Leslie says, they're gaslighting us, as is the press. Sadly, we have people incapable of thinking for themselves that believe it's true because it's on the news. Isn't that the truth? I think the media is mostly a branch of one party. So everybody listening on the radio, come and join us over in the chat room for the Captain's Cabin. For now, live long and prosper. Shalom.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here. Welcome to the Captain's Cabin, everyone. Thanks for being here. I was just checking the messages on my phone. I wanted to see if I had heard back anything about Ruben today, because I was trying to find out a little bit more information. Let's see. Nope, nothing new today. I'm going to just throw her a little message and see if she gets back to us yet tonight. There we go. So, folks, any of you that have not been in the Captain's Cabin before, this is just our after show. It's kind of like the pre-show, only a little longer, and it's after the show instead of before it. So we get a little more casual than the actual show. We can actually take calls in here. And there is, I'm going to grab the link right now. You can't call us on the phone unless you're calling us from your phone, watching the show on YouTube. But here's the link. If you can see that in the chat room, you just grab that link and paste it into your browser window, and you can come on board and talk with us. And I don't think we're going to go super long tonight, but we'll see how it goes. Sometimes it's so organic, we have no control over it. So if you want to call in, you can call in. You know where it is. I see Professor Bauer is here out in the wings. And so line up, kids, says Sarah Youssef. That's right. So if you want to talk on here, just call in to that link and we'll bring you in just like this. Boom, magic. There's Professor Bauer. How you doing, Professor?
Above average and getting better. You?
About the same. A long, slow day. I'm slow. I think it's just not exercising with great regularity. I think that's got to be the key. And I've said that for a year now. I think it's just, there are some days it's just like, why am I tired and everything feels so tired? Yes, now I'm done with the main radio show. Yes, can I help you?
Did you hear a scream?
No.
Oh, because the cat was behind the couch.
Yes.
And then I didn't know that, and I heard banging behind the couch.
Yeah.
So I looked over behind the couch.
Well, that's the ghosts that usually try to get your feet at night.
behind the couch, and he jumped up at me, and then I screamed really loud.
Very nice. Who are you talking to?
Me, Grandma.
Oh,
Grandma.
Hi, Barb.
Hi.
I'm just doing radio.
And it scared me, and I screamed.
Don't bug Daddy. He's doing radio.
Yeah, she comes while I'm doing the actual show and likes to come on. And I got to put up my hand. Folks, I don't know if you see that on the screen, but I go like this. I put up my hand, and if you see my arm go up, it's telling one of my kids, nope, not right now. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, I see Jason Patrick is also in the wings. Bring him in. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I couldn't let the professor get in here without the usual suspects joining along with.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to keep that on the down low. I mean, the cohort partner thing is not supposed to be known.
You know the rolly thing?
Roly thing.
The professor and Jason is to
yes.
Scotty as Robin is to Batman.
Ow. Yeah.
There's nothing like
piece of
questionable sanity injection into the conversation.
Yeah, I'll bet. You cut some blood vessels open. Okay.
It makes for good conversation.
Scram now. I'm going to finish this up. You can be in here, but
I found a Disney World outfit.
There you go. That's for our conversation, guys.
I gotta
That's
pick
going
our
on
key
there.
up.
Jason's giving you an applause.
I
So
gotta pick our key up.
okay, see you. Bye.
I gotta pick our key up.
So, Scotty, I just wanted
I have no idea what she just said.
to clarify. You were talking about the exercising regularity. Were you talking
Yes.
about your regularity and exercising that regularly, or exercising and doing that regularly?
Yes. No, it's hopping on the treadmill, doing my push-ups.
Everything needs to be
what
regular.
inspired me, frankly, the other day. Saw a little thing, an old interview with Ricardo Montalban, who played, of course, he got very well known for doing
Khan.
Fantasy Island for years.
Oh, yeah, that too.
And but he was Khan in Star Trek. And for those of you who don't know, he played Khan Noonien Sung in the original series in the 60s. And that the movie The Wrath of Khan was a reprisal of that role.
It was epic.
Epic. But they used to say even back then, he had this massive chest. And he was wearing this kind of cut open coat, and he had the massive pecs. And there was talk of, and the person who interviewed him before he died said there was talk that was a prosthetic chest. He says, "Oh no, nope. Oh no, that was my real chest." And he says, "How do you attain that?" He says, "Many push-ups, lots and lots of push-ups." So I'm lacking push-ups in my life these days. My body's tired. It's like my legs feel like I've been working out and I haven't done anything. It's like, what the hell?
So I may be doing something either epic or epically stupid. And I may find myself in the same predicament that you're in, because I at the beginning of the week, I called USAREC and a local recruiting station to see if there was any way I could get my warrant reinstated and go back in. And before I didn't do this before I made those calls. I did this after I made those calls. I double checked the height, weight standards and the passing the PT test standards.
Nice.
My things have changed. Ooh, this is going to hurt if I do.
Yes. Now, by the way, I'm drinking a sugar-free soda right now, which is not water.
Mine is not sugar-free.
Water, but chemically altered.
Mine is from the bottle where it belongs.
And I do drink lots of water.
Sugar.
I have those big metal tumblers that Rainey makes. I drink about 6 of those a day.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to come along and say, "You need to drink at least 12." I'm like,
right.
Like hell, I can't drink that much.
I would be doing good to be even hitting 6 tumblers of water a day. I'm horrible about it.
I'm better at drinking water than I used to be. I like iced water in those. I like my water to be cold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See, I keep bringing up things that remind you of Khan's lines. He says,
"Revenge is a dish best served cold.
Best served
but
cold.
In space.
From hell's heart, I stab at thee. I spit my last breath at thee."
It was just superb. I mean,
yes,
that was the perfect role for him to play.
Yeah.
He was, cast just absolutely perfecly.
Oh, yeah.
And he did great. Did you watch his performance in the original series as Khan?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And he plays it with this stately, and he had great philosophies that he espoused. He just carried them out in a different way. And,
Yep.
Great ideas, poorly executed.
That's right.
That's like the world in general, right?
Yes.
I was really surprised when what's this guy's name? Cumberland Benedict Cumberbatch or Cumberbund?
Cumberbund Bandersnatch?
Yes. Oh, by the way, Leslie, you can't go to bed now. That's what the answer to that one is. Yes, Cumberbatch.
So I was really
Benedict
surprised
of
his portrayal of Khan in the new series. It's got Chris Pine as Kirk, which I think I have enjoyed all 3 of those, and I think again
they've been
really decent, if not really good casting. I think they picked up the whole spirit of that original crew, in my opinion.
I don't like
the
storyline recast. I didn't like the alternate timeline thing.
I
didn't go into that. I wish they had kept with this the current timeline. But
then they couldn't have all those cool toys and that badass ship.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Well, and it was interesting too. The guy who played Bones, in the J.J. Abrams movies. Oh God, why can't I think of his
Australian
name?
actor.
Keith, not Keith Urban. Keith
Urban.
Carl Urban.
Carl Urban.
Carl Urban.
He did a fantastic Bones.
He did amazing Bones, and there was I seem to recall reading or something or watching an interview with him where I think like original cast. I think they had like Sulu and no, it was Leonard Nimoy. Leonard Nimoy said to Carl Urban that, you know, it basically seeing you take on the role of Bones McCoy, it was like I was seeing my friend again after so many years, because, you know, DeForest Kelley had passed long before those movies had come out. And like what an absolute just compliment, right? I mean,
absolute. And of course, Nimoy handpicked Zach Quinto to play Spock.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Saying that. And Zach Quinto did a fantastic job.
Did a great job. Isn't Quinto on some sort of, you know, show that talks about science and paranormal and black ops and all that?
They used him. I think it was just a marketing gimmick.
It's like Zach 6 episodes kind of thing.
Do the new In Search Of, because Leonard Nimoy did In Search Of in the 70s.
Yeah.
So.
And he did great with that, and like listening to him talking about his own thoughts and like interests and things like that, I was like, I never would have guessed that with this guy.
Right. DeForest Kelley cameoed on The Next Generation. It was the very first episode.
First episode, yeah. Yep, it was.
He was supposed to be something like 140
Encounter at Farpoint
or something.
Yeah, Encounter at Farpoint.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was an elderly, frail, walking with Data. And Data said something to him. I remember that. And he looks at him and he goes, "I don't see any points on your ears, boy." I thought that was pretty good. So, you green-blooded, inhuman.
Human.
And I always love Spock's answers. "Doctor, you really must control your passions." So.
Damn it, Tim, I'm a doctor, not a doctor. Oh. Wait.
Yeah. And Leslie Holker, you're right. Leonard Nimoy was perfect for In Search Of. And Zach Quinto, I think, did a pretty fair job too in the new incarnation of that. Mm-hmm. So
absolutely. You know? Oh, that reminds me, since we're talking about shows like that and in that vein, I started Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh yes.
Last night, yeah. I fell asleep in it during it, not because I found it boring, but just because, you know, my body failed me. Yes, where they interviewed the guy who's the new owner of the ranch, tech guru guy, whatever, and all that.
I think there's 3 seasons, and I think they're in the 3rd right now. Mm-hmm. And the 2nd season is exceptionally good, especially the last episode. But the stuff I'm hearing in the chat rooms and the groups on what they have found recently, and they're about to unload some major dump on folks. To me, I was on another show the other night, and we were talking about things, you know, all these series like Curse of Oak Island and even Ancient Aliens, and, you know, how they have all of their varied likes and dislikes and issues and so forth. But the one thing that I find that I really enjoy in all of them is these guys are constantly going out and finding some really cool tech.
Yeah.
And they go in and they try to use and apply this tech to add to their data. You know, Curse of Oak Island, I mean, all of the geological and as well as the historical stuff that they've done. But they brought stuff onto that island. And if that crew with those toys can't find anything, then there's nothing there.
And they keep turning up. At least the last I watched, it was a couple 3 seasons ago, I'm sure. I just ran out of time. And but they were finding they turn up coins, you know, or a necklace.
Yeah. Like Roman coins, though.
Dates back to that era.
Well, Chinese coins, Roman coins, Templar coins, Spanish coins, Portugal coins from the entire Western Europe. So that's really fascinating. But it goes back to the question that you were kind of posing in the show tonight, Scotty, and see if I can kind of tie this in. The whole idea of science and religion, there was a quote that you made. I forgot who was saying it, but what the author was. But it was basically that both science and religion,
yes, sir, we agree.
What they try to do is give proof for their particular set of reality.
Yes.
And they tell you that it's truth. And the only truth is that which you can.
Sorry. Sarah's I was trying to stay on topic. Good luck. We'll drag him out.
Because he's trying to stay on topic, we're not telling him to be succinct.
That's right.
That's right. That's not in the rule book. Well, I made a couple of notes on this, which is why I wanted to make sure that I at least cover those, and then we can squirrel off wherever you want. But the whole idea,
you know what that statement just did for me, by the way?
Somebody's
actually taking notes during my show.
Well, sometimes you have to. The material requires it.
Yeah.
And the idea, the whole thing about curiosity and investigation and interrogation and the pursuit of trying to uncover.
The naysayers.
You get a rock that says truth on it, and you go, okay, I'm going to pick up that rock, and oh, wait a minute, what's that behind that rock? And everything in my experience that I have gone through has been of that nature. It's been somebody says this is what is, and I go check out what is, and I examine it and interrogate it and investigate it and sit there and go, what is this? And then if I pick it up and look at it and I look at the full three-dimensional construct of whatever the hell it is, there's all kinds of holes and questions and on that are revealed simply by picking up the rock. And what is that? That's a part of the investigation. I want to see.
No, you don't, Leslie. You stay right there. Join this conversation.
You're not allowed to sleep, Leslie. Sorry. It just came down. There's a memo. Clearly, she didn't get the email about the cover sheets and the TPS.
Clearly.
That's right. Sweet dreams, Leslie.
Have a good night, Leslie.
So the thing about this whole...
she's going to keep it up and running, though. Cool.
It's, when you have this discussion between science and religion, they are essentially the two main belief systems of our reality. One is a mathematical based, numerical based, metric based, which is science, and the other is the spiritual.
We only use freedom fractions here, no metrics. Metrics. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Continue.
Yeah, the metrics, not the metric. Yes. So everything that we see is information. Every piece of information has some kind of delineation, differentiation, distinction about it, and those are usually defined by metrics, right? So there's some kind of measurement that's put on whatever the hell it is, and there's a whole bunch of ways in which that's done. A lot of it is accepted because it's been very successful. Mm-hmm. Our mechanistic, materialistic science model that we have today has turned out with all the technology we're using, including what we're doing right now, having this conversation. So it's proved itself really well. It works well in the materium, but it has complete disregard and employs dismissal to the ethereum, that which cannot be seen, in spite of, which is really odd, in spite of the facts that the majority of the science that is making a difference is discovered by tools, toys, and techniques and telemetry of what we can't see. Radio signals, microwaves, light waves. The James Webb Space Telescope right now is tossing all the Big Bang guys all over the room because with a single picture, it basically doubled the age of what we think is the known universe. So obviously the models and the men and the math and the machines that they used to come up with the previous age, there was a flaw in there. There was missing data. There was something that was inaccurate either in its presence or absence or in its use. So back to Fyneman real quick. You're getting me rolled around on the table here, and I'm going to try to stay on topic. Not only were the two quotes you brought in about Fyneman my two favorites, the one about I have uncertainty about nothing, even though I have certain certainties about some things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is I'd rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned.
Right.
And that in and of itself is, to me, for me at least, it's a motivator for curiosity to go into my overly fertilized field of imagination and go explore and go look and find and see what the hell. Because Fyneman also said this, and a lot of us are going through this now, and there's a growing chorus of us. But one of the things that Fyneman said, our current science is based on Einstein's energy model, the general relativity, E equals mc squared. If you really look at the history of that equation, it was discussed back in the 1850s. Faraday, Heaviside, Keeley, Tesla, all had either come to something close, or when they saw it, they went, it's a nice equation, but what can you do with it?
Right.
What has come from its existence that we have been able to innovate with, that we've been able to create with? Absolutely nothing. There's nothing that E equals mc squared that has translated into any of the reality that we inhabit with all the science and the toys and fun stuff. So Fyneman was of the same opinion. He thought, he didn't say it in this way. I'm going to paraphrase it, but he said, Einstein's a fool and the equation is crap. And that's in his own book. Okay. Now, most people don't realize that Fyneman was a part of the Manhattan Project, the whole atomic bomb with Oppenheimer and all of that.
Right.
So Fyneman wrote in his book that everybody said that this was an atomic event. He said, it's not an atomic event. It's an electrical event. This is actually an electric bomb, not an atom bomb. Because what it does is it interacts with the energy frequency at the molecular level. And that's what causes the release of the energy.
Right.
So Fyneman was they knew what they were doing was going to cause it, but the way they were interpreting it was wrong. And he said that he kept quiet about it. He basically didn't push back against the establishment because he just went along to get along. But he was firmly against the way that they were describing it, and E equals mc squared was nothing. So Fyneman is one of those. He's like Dirac, who's famous for the Dirac-C equation, which is not free energy, but it's not the term.
You're not talking about like Dwayne Johnson Dirac. You're talking about
no. Dirac, the science and the
Never
physics.
mind, I heard you wrong at first. That would be my wife. My wife's her on her free list is Dwayne Johnson, Dirac.
So anyway, there was a bunch of these free thinkers in science, because it goes back to part of what you were talking about with the show. There's a percentage of scientists that are atheistic and don't believe in any kind of ethereal spiritual existence, and mainly because it can't be measured. Quantum mechanics and physics are all based on, if it can't be observed, then it has to be mathematically modeled. And that's what Schrodinger's equation is about, and the whole famous cat thing. The fact that these guys all had a different view of what is currently in and been accepted and adopted as our scientific model and understanding is something worth looking at, because these guys were the top dogs. In fact, Tesla had the same opinion of E equals mc squared as Fyneman, but he was a friend of Einstein, so he couched it and positioned it much more much more correctly, if you will. So science and religion, they're trying to do two things, or one thing in particular, which is tell you that the truth of reality is their definition, and here's their data, and here's the religions over here talking about the spiritual thing. What's fascinating is if you think about the scholarly debates that went on back in the medieval and the Renaissance and the Enlightenment, when you would have these scholars of the times debate what's the difference between God and the universe or space, they all used similar term or similar definitions for the same thing. What is space? Well, space is incorporeal. Can you name a place where space is not? No. Everything seems to be in space. Okay. How do you define God? Well, God is incorporeal. God is everywhere, like space. Mm-hmm. And so they would use the same definitions to describe the same thing, arguing them from a different perspective. Yeah. And I have recently, I've been digging into some of the old Manly Hall lectures. I just absolutely some people can't stand listening to him, but oh my God, is this guy just, there's so much data in 2 hours that you're just sitting there going, I got to listen to that a few times. And one of them, he was talking about astrology and consciousness. And he was making the argument for, just based on writings, he was just going through a litany of what people have said. And one of the things that seems to be consistent is that space seems to be required for everything. Mm-hmm. And it got me to thinking about the whole, we're told that space is a vacuum. Nothing can exist in a vacuum. It's like, well, how in the hell is the Earth and the planets and everything else we're seeing manifesting in a vacuum? That just doesn't make any sense.
I think it depends on how you define exist. If you talk in terms of life, as we know it, life can't exist in a vacuum in that way, or at least our version of life.
But isn't the Earth life?
Right, but you have something encompassing the Earth.
And what is that? You have
atmosphere.
Yeah, but why is the atmosphere there? What keeps us on the Earth? What separates, and this is one of the fascinating things that I started to ponder. We are told that, first of all, space is a vacuum and nothing can exist in space, because if it's there, then it's not a vacuum. Right?
See, but I'm not sure, and far be it for me to say that I'm any sort of authority, but the way I take statements like nothing can exist in a vacuum because it's a vacuum, right? So you have the absence of oxygen or gases, breathable gases, things like that. So if nothing can exist in a vacuum, it's more of like that literal sense relating to life, because clearly if I take a chamber and I introduce in a sealed chamber a vacuum, and I have some steel shot or a marble or something, and I induce a vacuum, it's still there, right? It exists. So I think maybe the definition or the usage of the word exist might be where...
I think I see where you're going. I think the real question is the use and definition of vacuum.
Well, if all of space is a vacuum, our planet is suspended in space. So
what does suspended mean? By how? By what?
See, it's hanging by a wire.
Yeah, it's on some kid's desk.
There's a gantry that holds it up, along with a cyclone.
Yes. Yes. Well, and the great ice wall of the Antarctic surrounds our flat Earth and keeps the vacuum out. So
yes, and here's the other thing about that. Doesn't flat Earth make you want to go see what's underneath?
Yeah. Right. What's on the other side of the coin?
Right? What's on the other side of this thing?
It's like laying on the bed. We see all these other... when you were a kid, and there was
what's under the mattress
that were going to grab your legs. I want to see what's under there.
I love the fact that we can see and we can tell, and it's very obvious that all these other heavenly bodies, the moon, the various planets within Earth, we all know they're round.
They're round.
But by God, the Earth is flat as a pancake.
I love the I don't know if I mentioned it here or was talking to somebody last week. I love the poster I saw that shows our solar system. the round sun and all the round planets.
It's got,
got a little flat.
Looks like a graham cracker.
Yeah, like a graham cracker. And it goes, well, this is awkward.
You know, it's really going to suck when we find that out, right?
You know, one of the other things that I want to put out there that I'd like to hear what Sarah has to say about what I posited there. But think about this. We're able to get the light and the information, which is essentially energy, through these devices like currently the James Webb, using infrared frequencies to see what it's getting. It's picking up data in a frequency band that we can't see. And it hasn't been used before, and it's seeing more than any of the other ones have since. Yeah. So that we get pictures of these ginormous systems, and especially if you think about it from a galaxy perspective. And we're told that they're hundreds or thousands of light years across. So the whole question to me is like, well, what I've been told is that, you know, if light travels at 250,000 miles a second, somewhere in there, it's in that range, and it fluctuates. It's not a constant, and I think it's a wrong measurement anyway. It's measuring the wrong thing, but nonetheless, if there is something that's 1,000 light years across, what's holding that together?
Yeah.
What is it?
What's containing it?
What's keeping it? Because
baling wire.
Yeah.
Because based on the answers that I find when I go look for when I question these things, I look at it and I go, I'm not sure that answer is in the ballpark, and I'd like to see the question you used to arrive at that answer, because I think,
by the way, that is a great segue for us to play this little clip I have. It's only a couple of minutes long, but this is the original recording of William Shatner recording the opening sequence for Star Trek.
Oh, nice.
And he did it in 3 takes. And you can hear some of the guys talking from the engineering panel. Listen to this. I thought this is, speaking of space, here we go. I'm going to play this.
Star Trek main title narration.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
You hear the guys
Space,
flipping buttons.
The final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
There it is. That was pretty cool, I think.
You know, and what did you notice the third
Star
one?
Trek main title narration.
The first.
Space.
Whoops.
There we go. Okay.
Did you notice that the first 2 were more? There was more emphasis. There was more emotive content to the way that he said it. And the third one, space, the final frontier.
And one telling point is the pause he puts. You know, the 5-year mission of the Starship Enterprise. Yes, that pause in between there. That was one of the. And then when he gets to the very end, where no man has gone before, you know, he emphasizes it more. So
yes,
I think the third one was the one they used.
Good evening, Sarah. What's your thoughts on science and religion?
For me, they're almost about the same in that they are perspectives to try and explain uh, our data and stimuli that we interact with. I mean, they're basically, trying to be explanations through whether you use it through a scientific lens or a religious lens or any other sort of lens. I mean, because we see everything on a spectrum, and people have different, mixes of how much they believe in science and religion, what they really will attribute to God, or
So, do you think that faith is involved in either one?
Faith?
Mm-hmm.
How are you defining faith?
Well, faith is that, at least the way I use it, it's the component of believing without believing. But you have to have some kind of belief in order to have faith, because faith is a sense of wanting to know or feeling that you know that it will be whatever it is, whether it's what you want or what your spirits, your angels, your God, whatever wants. You have faith, or you have faith in yourself, for example. Like, I have faith in myself that I will get on anybody's show and crash it. And
at the last minute.
At the last minute. And well, how do I know this? Because I've seen me do it. That's a faith where
that's it. Yes.
That's a faith where I have faith because
it takes no faith to
experience.
believe that, because it's evident.
It's evidence-based. It's empirical, right? Empirical data is the only thing that, in my opinion, either can actually produce, and then you have to look at how it's packaged. Because if you say that, and this is one of the reasons I made the point in the chat during the show, all of the monotheistic, by definition, belief systems have a personality at the top. There's one who started it, and he had these characteristics and had said these words, and that is actually the belief system. All of the dictates and the rules and the regulations and the rights and the wrongs, the morality, the ethics, all of that come from that personality. And that personality, it started whatever it did, whether by default or because it had a life past its author, right? That's what most religions are. They are stories that survived their creators.
Yes.
Yeah, is in a way to put it.
Well, I suppose in a way you can, in the realm of science, you can consider, if you use theories as a jumping off point, that's sort of an amount of faith in the scientific realm. Like, you're basing your scientific advancements and discoveries based on if A is true to get to point B, point D. Because in life, I mean, at least from my experience, there's nothing is ever absolute.
Amen to that.
Yeah. So
change is the only constant.
Yeah. So I mean, when it comes
absolute is that there are no absolutes,
right?
Except at the aisle 3 at Kroger's,
right?
And they now have various flavors.
Yes.
Don't ask me how I know.
But it all depends, on, I guess, if we're relying on our physical self, on our mental brain, on how we're interpreting data that we receive. We have even in the paranormal world, we have the rise of metaphysics. So if the physical science is not able to explain what the paranormal is, and the religion can't, explain what it is in a satisfactory way, you have the rise of metaphysics, which was we take some of column A, some of column B, and create a new perspective. It's all a matter of perspective and how we apply that. Now, the topic of the show is finding pleasure and finding things out. So where does that mean pleasure is derived from? Is it pleasure? Do we use pleasure as our conditioning point? Said a certain concept makes me feel pleasure. Does that mean that it's right?
Well, that's the whole Pavlov dog thing, right?
Right. I mean, even B.F. Skinner, it's operant conditioning. So, I mean, we are supposedly, conditioned in a way to be pleasure seeking, be hedonistic to a point. So,
wait a minute. Did you just say we are supposed to be that way?
I didn't mean to. I'm very tired.
Well, I don't know. I resonated with that, and I wanted to make sure that I heard what you said. But one of the things I tell Christians is,
I mean, it's popular. Hedonism is popular.
Well, there's a whole bunch of reasons, which is a whole nother rabbit hole to go into why it's popular. But one of the things I like to tell Christians is, remember, if you don't sin, Jesus died for nothing.
You're right.
And they look at me like, huh?
What? I heard it put a little different way. When I was in ministry and in seminary, we taught that if man could earn his own salvation on his own merits, we heard that all the time. We heard people that, well, I think I'm good enough to make it to heaven. Or, if I do enough good deeds, I'll get there. If mankind could merit their own salvation, then why did it need a savior?
Excellent question. And one of the ones that, to me is another big question for Christianity.
Well, I mean, I think I can answer it for the both of you in that, in Christianity, especially, they put a lot of focus and emphasis on familial lines. So presumably, from the initial lines of humanity, that's being traced back to Adam and Eve. And if you go back to Adam and Eve, you got original sin. And for, the Christian concept that sin is, also passed down through those lines as generational. The sins of the father, as they say, is carried on to the son.
That sounds like a mind virus designed to herd the sheep in the direction they want to go with using the most powerful emotion that we experience, which is fear. The whole concept of being I came here and I'm here to pay for a bunch of fuck ups. A lot of them I didn't have anything to do with, but because they happened and they were in my gene line, that I've inherited this responsibility. And there are all kinds of help systems and gurus and books and everything else that can help you with that. Find yourself, evolve in the next level, avoid the damnation, pay for your previous works that you have no idea of. Zero. There is no sense of I'm guilty of something. Only if somebody, when I first got into the belief system, particularly with Christianity, that mind virus and the oppression of you are guilty and you must absolve yourself of these sins. And here's all these ways to go do that. And here's the don'ts to not get there. And I looked at it and I went, God damn, it's a lot of rules. What are these? Do these rules even make any sense?
I mean, most of those rules are based off of interpretation, not from actual scripture. I mean, the whole patriarchal line.
But Sarah, if you're saying that it's the interpretation that's bad, what is good about the original source? And that's one of the things that we're finding in spades now. There is one of these things that are a benefit of this advent of this AI model is the ability to scan data and scan a lot of it and then interpret it based on rules and parameters. AI works just like, we do if we are allowed ourselves to be programmed. Right. But that whole model of when you are given a construct of reality that's based on this entity, this personality, and that personality said these things, and they were the one who are going. I love the shirt, brother. They're the ones that are.
Loathing shirt.
They're the ones that are giving the rules about your reality. It's like, who wrote the rules of reality? Show me the definitive book. Where is it in Wikipedia? How come I can't have buy it online at Amazon? Why isn't there a movie about this? Actually, and there is a lot, because the rules are rich, they're complex, they're intertwined and intermixed, and they're corrupt and screwed up as hell. All these systems are all screwed up because they can't keep up with the evolution that's occurring with getting more knowledge, and the knowledge coming from more information. The whole information suite is getting a major upgrade. It's just getting a flood, and sorting through it is a challenge. You have to be engaged and intentionally going in to find out about stuff that was hidden from you, that you didn't know existed, that were missing from the paradigm that you adopted and the one within which you now function in reality. Because once you go look through all that stuff, my experience is 50% of it is wrong, and there's another 30% is just missing information, and the other 20% is just being screwed with by people who want to drive it. That whole model is changing, and this is what I'll finish with. Both. I promise. Both science and religion. What's today? Today's December 1st, 2023. I'm going to make the following prognostication. And before that, I will add this. One of the best ways to gauge your grasp of reality is to make predictions and test them. Because if you're good with the whole trend analysis thing, particularly in fields that you may have a lot of experience and skill and knowledge and talent in, there's a constant shift. Change is the only constant, by the addition of new information, which is everything evolving and being upgraded. But it's also just totally screws. I think it's one of the second major dogma of our current sciences, which is matter and energy can neither be created or destroyed. Well, that whole thing is just completely blown out of the water just by realizing that as soon as you create a thought, that's something that didn't exist before. That's energy that didn't exist before. That's a paradigm. That's a frequency stamp that didn't exist before. So that's creation. So, and that's just at the impersonal, empirical level, what we experience from reality. But I think both science and religion in the next 5 years are going to undergo a decomposition and a rebuild into a completely new paradigm of knowledge and information and knowledge. Because you have to have information or to have knowledge. It's simple. There's nothing magic to it. There's no theology behind it. There's not a God.
So is that a prediction you're making to test the veracity of your thinking process, or?
That is correct.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens.
I think both are completely screwed. They're broke, and they need to be replaced, and that's what we'll see.
I'm not sure I entirely agree with your statement about a thought when you're talking about
creation.
Creation and how energy is neither created nor destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you say that you've created something, you're having all the electrical inputs, but isn't that charge floating around within our system, within all the neurons and synapses? It's a signal that's just being pushing through the wiring, if you will. So you're not creating it. Yes, you are creating a thought, but you're taking something that already exists and you are just restructuring what already exists.
But that's still an act of creation. All you're doing
creating matter.
You do when we use electricity. And
are
here's
you creating.
does thought have matter?
Thought is energy. Okay.
Right.
So, and we're all energy. Everything is energy. Quantum physics has finally come to the point where they say that everything is a wave. Everything, there's nothing solid. Everything. That's a good one, field guy.
Good to see you, brother. Glad you made it. Only 2 hours late.
So everything is in motion. There's constant everything vibrates. It has a frequency signature that it vibrates in. It's detectable. That's why the James Webb with infrared is just blowing people away.
But you're not creating a new a new energy.
That's not that's a discovery. That's a discovery of motion that has occurred.
Right, but again, it goes back to when you're talking with creating and what you can't create more and you can't destroy.
The energy in matter is neither destroyed nor created. Yeah.
Right, it's already there, so you're just repurposing it to create a thought. Thoughts are not matter, though they're fueled by energy, electricity.
Well, thanks.
There's I think it was a meme or a Facebook thing. It was talking about there was some cowboys and they fed the vegetables to the cow, and then they slaughtered the cow, and then they were eating the barbecue and said, these vegetables are great, versus they're eating the steak out of it. So I mean, it's kind of like a similar concept, right?
Yep.
The vegetables or the grass or whatever becomes part of the cow, and you're eating the cow, so you're getting the benefits of
and I saw a meme that said we've discovered this new natural meat making machine. It's called animals, and we feed them the vegetables, and they become these delicious meats. It's like, well, I mean, that's some of the absurdity of the thinking, but particularly in the science realm, science, you had mentioned it during the show, or somebody did, about, it's become a religion, and it has taken on a theological construct. It has a hierarchy. It has, we've said thou shan't, or, and they've designed the silo of knowledge, and they've determined what gets in and what gets out. Mm-hmm. And that has been, for a good 50, 70 years, it's been the model, and it's actually worked really well.
Well,
it's
like any other perspective, it's on a spectrum. It's not you believe in this or you believe in that as a yes no sort of thing. I mean, it's all on spectrum. It's like at the beginning of the Wizard of Oz, everything's in sepia tone, versus having other views and beliefs,
other frequencies, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, not only frequencies, but I mean having alternative views to add to your view. It's like adding color, and then it's all the interpretation may be to your interpretation right or wrong, but it's something. We're trying to interpret the data that we receive and the stimuli that we're constantly experiencing through our brain, and everybody knows brains have limited capacity. We only see a small sliver of visible light than what may exist out there, in the whole world of infrared or ultraviolet. I mean, there's so much out there that we don't see because we are limited in this physical form. So,
but that doesn't mean that we can't find them and explore them, right? Because that's exactly what this whole mechanistic model of reality and the materium has produced. That's why we have phones, computers, all these devices that we have created. And back to your point, Jason, if you look at our technology and our infrastructure, it's from what you were saying, you would be, we just took other materials that were already here and we transformed them into these things, right?
Which is exactly what we did.
right?
Well, I mean,
So,
it's like what would people do if they have an infinite amount of resources, or if money was never not an issue? Well,
I wouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, what would people do?
oh, it would be a painful, extremely long and painful transition of people thinking one way to another. Because if you think about all of the ways in which our systems are currently, the architecture, the way they function, the regulation and administration of them, all of them have people in them somewhere, and all of them have people that require them to support and service that infrastructure in order for it to work, right? Well, it's just massively redundant, way over it's suboptimal at a minimum, because in the way it gets things done. I'll give you a quick example. Down in Dubai, which is a place that I can't wait to go visit, they have taken and redefined the entire architecture of a city and the systems and the way in which it functions. And it's literally the city of the future. I mean, it is amazing.
Yeah, I've been to Dubai. So
you know what I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you concur with that definition?
Well, I mean, with all the oil money, that's, in your infinite.
Well, regardless of how they got it, they invested it and created this big badass place of all the latest stuff. So because I'm involved in the tech space with blockchain and cryptocurrencies and cryptography and all of that, I'm following this. And a couple of years ago, the government of Dubai, and I forgot her name, but she's the head of information technology, I think, for the municipality. Gorgeous woman, had the whole Habib and just beautiful. And she was describing their experience with implementing blockchain for their real estate systems. And this was their pilot project about 7 or 8 years ago. And the current system at the time took 43 days from the time the applications were done till the transaction was complete and all the parties had what they needed. 43 days. So she describes how they said, well, we're going to try this technology because it looks really interesting. And we'll be happy if we get a 30 or 40% efficiency in the system. They turned it on and it took it from 43 days down to 0 days. All of the infrastructure, the intermediation, all of the activities and processes that had been in place to conduct a full legal, authenticated, trustless system, a transaction, took 1 day.
Hey,
so they removed
Professor Bauer here. So,
hey, Fieldy,
right at the end of the show.
Greetings. Crayons. Steph said I should have crayons.
There you go. It's
even
funny,
broken crayons
right there.
What
coloring books do you have nearby?
I don't have any coloring books. I just have a bunch of crayons.
We got to do a coloring book for this show.
Could. Yeah, I just walked in the door. I figured I would pull a Professor Bauer and jump on and keep it going for another 3.5 hours.
Yeah. Ain't gonna happen tonight.
Good luck, man. I wish you all the best.
I'll pop in for 5 minutes and then I'll be like, all right, let's go to 3 a.m.
There you go.
So yeah, sorry I missed the show. I had to
you had to work.
Unfortunately work. Yeah, them bastards made me work. But
you can always catch it on the replay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually do. That's why I said if it goes backwards, it's good. But,
well, we always devolve into our own nonsense anyway. So
can we all be characters in the color? Absolutely, Steph.
So
science is awesome, and religion is bullshit. That's my opinion on it.
Well, there's a lot of truth in what you're saying, but science is catching up with religion on the bullshit. There is more bullshit out there right now. And Sarah, to your question earlier about, well, how would people react if they didn't need money? They didn't need, anything like that. There are 3 technologies that are off the development bench. They are in production and can be deployed rapidly around the world that do the 3 most important things that enable the liberty and the freedom of the individual. And those are water, energy, and communications. Those 3 things can each be had right now by an individual, then each one of them fit in the palm of your hand. So you can have unlimited water, you can have unlimited energy, and you can have unlimited communications. Those 3 are about to hit. The problem with getting them out too soon is that the disruption that will happen as a result of people all of a sudden not needing AT&T and the electric company and water company and the bottled water and the phone company and all of that. Instant support for water and energy and communications will be the most liberating experience I think that humans in our current iteration have ever experienced. Might be something close back in the Atlantean time, but that shit's just ahead of us.
You say it's about to hit, but I'm just going to tell you right here and now, as long as Grand Forks City water tastes as awful as it does, there will always be a need for bottled water.
That's in Egypt. Nobody drinks the water there, not even the Egyptians, as far as I know. And the plastic bottle garbage buildup in Egypt is unbelievable. Yeah. And I think as in a lot of Middle Eastern countries as well as North Africa. So that's one thing I noticed there. And everywhere we went, everything was bottled water. You didn't drink the water.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have to with these devices. So the mental fornication that will occur when people realize that the stuff that they had faith in, that they believed in science, or the stuff that they believed in, had faith in religion, and those that mixed the two. By the way, Fyneman, Oppenheimer, Tesla, Ramanujan, of course, he was from India, but they all studied the Vedics, the Mahabharata, and the Vedas. And that was, if there was any belief system or theological belief system that they found that resonated with them, it was Hinduism. Because in the epics and the Vedas and Mahabharata and so forth, these stories of what occurred they're as close to having a scientific definition and description as any of the ancient cultures and cosmologies that we've found. And, Oppenheimer was famous for saying, as soon as the bomb went off, I've become a destroyer of worlds.
Yeah.
Right? Which is from, I think, the Rig Veda.
Bhagavad Gita.
Is it Bhagavad Gita? So these guys, if there was a belief system that was outside of the scientism that they were a part of, they tended to lean Indian or Hindu. A few were Taoists and followed Taoism, but even Shintoism up in the Japanese version. But they all had the same, going back to the statement that I made in the chat earlier, all of these personality-based belief systems seem to be the ones with the most trouble. They seem to be not getting along not only between each other, but within their ranks. They've all got delineations that scatter all over the place, and they're busy duking it out because they believe their version and interpretation is better than the other guys. So if it's a personality-based theology, it doesn't have a good track record because it's constantly in conflict. But the ones that don't have a personality, a single entity, Hinduism, Jainism, Taoism, Shintoism, they are all just looking at the world kind of like a scientist would. What is my experience? What is the empirical data that I'm collecting as I bounce around on the reality I inhabit? What is that? and they give. I mean, Hinduism's got. I don't know, Sarah. Do you know? I think it's around 500 to 1,000 different entities that are gods for this, that, and something else.
As far as I know, yeah. I'm not too well versed into Hinduism, but
I lost count. I never counted.
There's like a triune at the top with Shiva and Vivekananda and
yeah, I know a handful is all I know.
But they've got a boatload. There's no one that's driving the herd or telling the herd how to behave. Here's the rules, regulations. Here's how I'm going to.
You wanted to behave back there.
Well, and they all kind of work in concert, right? You don't have one running the show. Really, it's
like a playground. It's like a playground of responsibilities.
Nice.
But, I mean, as far as having different sort of belief systems, people only will take in or use. It's depending on the usage of it. I mean, as far as how does a particular perspective or belief enhance our experience? How do we get through this life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as far as their function, it may be a story, or it may be you may say it's bullshit or it's not. I mean, to someone it may be bullshit to you. It may not be bullshit to somebody else if it helps them, enhances their life and through their function, able to do that. I mean, it's like, I know you were going on about all this stuff about infrastructure and all that, but where we are now, we have to live in this society. It's a broken society, but we have to live and function in it. We have to get up and go to work to earn money, to earn money to feed ourselves, to enhance, to get through.
And then we have to figure out a way to make it not so broken,
right?
Because that's
bullshit. It's
so.
like that saying, it's having a first world problem.
Yes,
because I mean, if it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If the basic needs are set, then the rest will follow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, here is some bullshit for you. We're at the end of the show, and I got a call.
Oh, that's complete bullshit. I'm not buying that one.
Complete bullshit.
I'm never watching this show again.
I have a very busy day tomorrow. My wife is cracking the whip on me on something I got to go help her do tomorrow. And happy to help my wife.
Well, the next time I have to get ready for a show and I've got either laundry to do or get on the show, I'm going to reevaluate my laundry decision.
That's right. That's right.
Rainey, if you're listening to this at all, Scotty said he's happy to help you. I just want to reiterate that.
Nice.
See, well, it's not really she's not here, so I can say this. It's not really a request. It's kind of a.
Oh, you got marching orders.
It's an order. It's a general order.
You know, when your wife looks at you and said, "Now you are coming to do that thing tomorrow, right?"
Yeah.
The thing was
thoughts and energy. Nothing is either created nor destroyed. So.
What have you got moving back there, Doc? Your curtains are moving.
What's that?
You got a dog back there?
Oh, yeah. Navi just popped in for a.
Your curtains all fluttered.
Yeah, it's her tail. She's like, she's got a sideways and a complete circle.
I don't care.
It's the ghost that he doesn't believe exists.
There you go. Well, Steph wants an all-night show going. So, Professor Bauer, you can go start up your own channel tonight, or crank up your channel and keep it going.
I just might do that. I think I might refill the fuel here, and because I'm feeling a little frisky, and I just bought. I just got my new StreamYard, so it might be worth just doing it to see if I can get it figured out.
Water everywhere, and all the boards did shrink. Randall Flagg.
StreamYard's is easy to work. Extremely easy.
Drop to drink.
Well, I'll probably jump on the Professor Bauer channel here in about 10 minutes, and I'll put a link out there if you guys want to get back on.
Clearly, I need to find that channel.
There it is. Yeah, he's got to put it out there. And by the way, Randall Flagg, just for you, remember, he says, in that self-same moment, I could pray, and from my neck so free, The albatross fell off and sank like lead into the sea.
Coleridge.
There we go. Little Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So
Did
that guy was.
Did you hear anything from Ruben?
Nothing. I heard nothing
so,
here. I was just going to check because I sent her a message at the beginning of the show.
He's conscious now, right? Last time
he was conscious, but they put him back under because they had to tap some more blood off of his brain, and that was almost a week ago now, and it might have been a week ago. And
so he should be up by now.
He regained consciousness. He talked. But nothing, but very confused.
Yeah.
Imagine being asleep for 14 days and then trying to talk.
Mm-hmm.
He recognized Susie.
That's good.
But could not say her name.
Mm-hmm.
His right side, which was all paralyzed, they were getting some reaction on his right side. But then they found there was more blood on the brain. They had to go back in. And that's really the last I've heard. So hopefully by Sunday morning, we'll have some more news.
Hopefully.
On Ruben. It didn't sound like it was, I mean, it's all dire. It didn't, when I first heard about this over a week ago, 10 days ago, it sounded like we'd never hear from him again. And now there have been a couple of little signs that he might see some improvement, but we don't know yet.
It's going to be a long and slow process. So.
Yeah, it will be.
But from the symptoms, it sounds like it's mostly in the left side of the brain. Left side of the brain that's injured. So
yes. And Adriana, I hate to say it, we're just ending now that you got here. So
we're all going to Bauer's house.
Yeah.
I put a link in the chat if it showed up. But
it went in the private chat. It didn't go in the general chat.
Well, I tried to put it out there. It didn't show up.
It went in private because I saw it in private. It didn't go in there.
Whoa!
You're not a mod, so it's not going to work. Scotty has to do it.
Here, I can throw it in there. Let me copy it.
Unless he gives you a wrench, then you can do it. But
copy and comment, and here's Professor Bauer's link, guys.
I don't think Scotty would want me to be a wrench in his show. I already throw enough nuts in there. There's not enough wrenches to go around.
I did 3 hours last night. So
in a new tab. Yeah, there you go.
3 hours of nonsense.
All right. And on that note, Jason dropped. And there is a private chat, Steph.
If you're on panel, there's a private chat.
You got to be. Don't you have to be in the? You have to be in the StreamYard window.
You have to be on the panel
for the private chat. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got to be in the panel to see it. So
that's where all the dirty stuff happens.
So call in, Steph. And you can see the private chat. That's
I need to get some women in here.
See you, Adriana.
Yes, we've been asking you to do that for a while now, and
come on my channel.
We need to get some women in here. Get some.
I had 3 of them on panel last night. 3 out of 5.
What was that, Sarah?
I said there is such a thing as the girl code. You know, there's certain things you don't subject women to.
Which is, is one of them a Field Guys channel?
I don't know. All the women in my life, they were the ones telling me what to do, and it's like, hey, you need to do that. Don't do this. You know, I'm like, good grief.
Yeah,
I bring some women, and I'll have to give them all aspirin.
Well, guys, I have got to go. I've got to get out of here, and so I want to thank everybody for coming in. Fieldy, you were the last one here. You get to go first. Good to see you, brother. And let's see.
All right,
I
thanks,
know
guys.
Professor Bauer was here first, so tonight.
Well, that doesn't. Sarah, would love to have you join in about 10 minutes. I'll fire it up. So if you're still up and you want to get in, come on over.
Oh dear Lord!
There's that
you got nothing else to do.
Check that out. Be sure you put it up for future watching too, Professor.
Oh yeah, I'll record
you have a good
it
night.
to YouTube. All right.
I'll talk to you soon. And Professor, you too. Go have fun now. You go.
I think I'm going to go. Yeah, I think I'm going to go take my behave down a little bit and see what happens.
There you go. All right. All right. Talk to you soon.
All right, brother.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being here for the show. This is Friday night, so we're back on Sunday morning. So I might not be here, though. I think I have to do this art show thing with Rainey for 2 days, if I'm not mistaken. It's a Saturday, Sunday thing, and I'm assuming I won't be here on Sunday morning. So we might not see you again until Monday. So thanks for coming. I'll put up an announcement if I'm going to be here on Sunday. I got to find out from Rainey what the schedule is. So other than that, that's all I got. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of my life, part of the show. And all of you, live long and prosper. Shalom.